that transcend geography. Yet, in response to those who wonder where exactly is Over the Hill, a little geography goes a long way. Over the Hill refers to that area on the island of New Providence that is bound by School Lane to the north, Collins Wall to the east, Wolf Road to the south, and Nassau Street to the west. Now, many have asked over the years, how did the area get its name? Just like any neighborhood, Over the Hill had pillars, institutions responsible for grounding the people who lived in the area. Inarguably, in early 20th century Bahamas, the strongest pillars, the life-shaping institutions, were the churches. And according to many Over the Hill residents, St. Agnes Anglican Church was at the center of spiritual, intellectual, and social vitalization. Established in 1841 and dedicated on July 12, 1845, St. Agnes in Grantstown was built for freed slaves who had settled in the area.
The role St. Agnes Church has played goes way back. And of course realized that the reason for St. Agnes Church being here was to assist the black communities of Bain and Grantstown. And from that very existence, it has been very much influential and effective in people's lives. In fact, Father Woodcock, who came here in 1848, came as a young priest, as a curate in charge of St. Agnes. And he died 3 years after coming here in 1851. And he left instructions that all his personal earthly possessions should be taken and given to make possible the education of the blacks over the hill. And that's why we still have the School of Woodcock School in the area. And so the early records show that even from then, 1848, 1851, St. Agnes began an outreach to the poor in the community.
Today, more than a century and a half after its establishment, when so much has altered the canvas of inner-city Nassau, St. Agnes continues to be a spiritual and social column, upholding the surrounding community and uplifting members who each Sunday return from all over the island to the heart of Grantstown. Now, let's set the record. Not everyone who grew up over the hill was Anglican. There were the Roman Catholics, Methodists, and Seventh-day Adventists. There were people who preferred drums to pipe organs, fast-paced, unscripted singing to ancient hymns and sheet music, fire and brimstone bring down the roof preaching to reserved intellectual sermons. And such people attended the Baptist and jumper churches, which were also well represented in the area. Just as no discourse on Bahamian lifestyle can take place without the mention of the church, so no discussion of Over the Hill would be complete without highlighting the families who were born and bred there. Families who were unified, had community spirit, believed in manners, formal education, and that brand of affirmative action that spoke louder than words. They were God-fearing, honest people who worked and saved for what they needed and wanted. And when we say saved, a lot of these families, like many others living in New Providence and on the Family Islands, were not permitted to get loans from commercial banks. So they came up with their own systems of raising funds, chief among them, the ASU.
ASU originated from Africa. The Africans saved their money. I don't know if they called it ASU, but we call it ASU. I suppose it was translated into it. But they saved their monies. Their bosses weren't supposed to know about their monies, so that when they traveled, they would have had money to go with. And that went down to the islands, because not all the islands, when my children went in Atlanta, and they tell me, there in ASU in Atlanta. And I said, but who said? They said, this Jamaican lady keeps the ASU.
My friends at Godrington from Trinidad talk about the susu. And the susu and ASU are the same. You people get together and put in amounts, and in order for a particular project, and different people had draws. We call them a draw. And there were some people who kept well established ASUs. My mother kept an ASU. Now, certain of our uncles she would allow in that ASU because when they got the first draw, they withdrew. So you had that type of situation.
Regardless of its origin, ASU has undoubtedly become Bahamian. As Bahamian as the plethora of women and men who would go down in our annals as Bahamian heroes. Men and women springing from families who built over the hill and enhanced it until it became a national institution in its own right. We speak of nation builders such as Rosalie Smith, Timothy Gibson, Irma Grant Smith, Lila Lee, Percy Hannah, Ulrich J. Mortimer, Sam Williams, and Archdeacon William Thompson. It is a category replete with national heroes, such as the man referred to as the father of our nation, Sir Lyndon Oscar Pindling, the first Bahamian Prime Minister, also known as the man who walked with kings but never lost the common touch.
I know while I was a student in England, E.G. Hanna was there as well, and his mix and mingling with the African students and talking about their homeland and what they want to see happen for their people. I think it rubbed off. Knowing that the minority was in charge of the majority here in the Bahamas. He read about the struggles, and I think he followed those students so that he could learn if they can do it for their people, then obviously, surely we can do it for the Bahamas. And they got that strong conviction that it can be done. And the only way we can do it is we bind ourselves together with a cause that was just for the people. It ain't about me, it's for as long as it's about the people.
When Bahamian medical doctor Dr. Claudius Roland Walker returned home in 1930, he and his wife raised their family in Baintown, in the Southern District of Over the Hill. Not only did he represent the district in the House of Assembly, but it was the center of his political, social, and civic operations that impacted various aspects of Bahamian society, including Bahamian women's right to vote. Today, Mrs. Juliet Barnwell, daughter of Dr. C.R. and Mrs. Mabel Walker, is still proud to call Over the Hill her home.
People have asked me, say, why do you stay there? But it's home. I mean, I've lived elsewhere in New Providence, but you always stop home anyway before you go to these other places, you know. But even people now do that, you know. Some people who live in other areas still stop at Beta and sit there and talk to the boys before going home. Because it's a community life, you know. Most of the persons who lived here when I was growing up, most of them are not deceased now, have moved out of the area. So mostly now people who are renting, there are a few people who were here years ago. But it's still you get to know the children and you get to know the people in the neighborhood. And the boys will protect you, you know, and all of that. But I have no problems with that. I think it's who you are, who you feel you are. And if you feel you're important anyway you are. And you have to have that confidence. And any black people or anybody anyway came to this area anyway. It's over the hill. Foxhill, and I lay right as the slave said.
The Over the Hill community of Mason's Addition was responsible for turning out a number of stalwart Bahamian leaders, including the renowned educator gospel, and cabinet minister, Carlton Francis. He and so many other nation builders grew up in a Mason's edition where unity, peace, and respect were the order of the day.
You had a group of people who were caring. You felt like you were just one big, huge family. And now I'm talking between the years of my 3 years old and about 11. And those were my formative years, really, in growing up, where, I mean, you had to have manners and respect. We looked out for each other. In the day or evening, if we didn't speak to one of these senior citizens, you go home and you would get chastised for that, because you were really taught to respect your elders in every sense of the word.
Not far at all from Mason's addition, Fort Finn Castle rose as a beacon in a community of people who had a different definition of struggle. A people who put the P in pride and who made invaluable contributions to the Bahamas as we know it today. This hilltop community gave us the likes of cultural activists and artists Jackson and Stan Burnside, sons of Dr. Jackson and Mrs. Gertrude Burnside.
The thing that I remember most about my father is that my father never thought about money and social standing. He remained an island boy. He saw through the superficial. He was always searching for the soul of individuals, and he really didn't tolerate fools. He really had high standards. I think when my father died, I would say that he had a handful of men that he respected in his life that met his standards. So he would practice his dentistry, and he would come home at the end of the day with a big box of fruit, sapodillies and maybe some fish and some, maybe watermelon and so on and so forth. And he would put that on the table, and my mom would ask, "Where's the money?"